They have never left the virgin forest. They live in the heart of Africa. Their guard is the jungle itself, which protects them. They are living proof of our own prehistory. But even they have reached the end of the world. They do not understand that there's nothing they can do. They are now a people with no future. There are still indigenous groups that have not been reached or choose to remain isolated in the Amazon basin. There are as many as 100 tribes of this kind in Oceania. There are just a few isolated tribes in Papua New Guinea and in the islands of the Andaman, which are the only people on the Asian continent to be cut off from civilization. In Central Africa, there are still groups of Pygmies whose existence is closely linked to their rainforest. They all look at the oil companies, the loggers and miners of gold and other natural resources as ghosts of the dead. Their arrival means the end of their habitat. These are the original inhabitants of Central Africa. All Pygmy groups are supposedly descended from a common tribe, perhaps the oldest in the history of mankind. They have lived here for many thousands of years under the jungle canopy. There are countries like Cameroon where the government has ordered that the Pygmies leave the jungles. This eliminates the awkward possibility of witnesses to the stripping away of natural resources. The expanding desert and increasing deforestation are eradicating the forests of Central Africa. Since the last decade of the 20th century, Africa has suffered the world's highest percentage of rainforest destruction. Every year, 10 million cubic meters of wood are removed. The Pygmies watch the destruction of their habitat, unable to do anything. The fierce and indiscriminate logging shrinks their world a bit more with each passing day. They don't understand why the white man is destroying their forest. More than half of Africa's Ecuadorian forests have already disappeared for good. In the past, logging permits were given in areas where there were wide swaths of the same type of tree, which contained the impact of the activity. But now there is no legal impediment to logging. The destruction of even a single tree is unthinkable. If machines wipe out all vegetation as they move toward the felled trees, they erase all hope for the rainforest recovery. This is the agony of the Pygmies' green god, the death of the earth's second lung thanks to utter indifference regarding the corruption found in the governments of Africa. Still, deep within the forest, life continues to make a powerful showing. It may be fragile, but this is the perfect ecosystem, constantly evolving. The cycles of life and death march on ceaselessly. Death feeds new life in a process that cannot be stopped. Soil in the rainforest is not fertile, which explains why trees do not grow in the place of others that have been cut down. Plant remains cover the importance for the Pygmies. They know how to make it but prefer to preserve it. They are ready to begin the march as nomadic people, occasionally abandoning their settlements to move to another area. The women use baskets to transport their few worldly goods, a few kitchenwares, some cloth, a machete, and some sort of knife. The men carry spears, hunting nets, and crossbows. They leave their camps when hunting becomes scarce or when they are attacked by big cats. They may also move on when there are not enough mango leaves to make the roofs of their houses. When they wander, they do so within a diameter of fewer than 50 kilometers, and they always sing as they go. They usually settle in places where they have been before, always on the banks of a river. Women are in charge of building the huts. First, they clear the land, cut flexible branches, and gather mango leaves. The huts are semicircular in shape. The structure is built by weaving together flexible branches in the shape of a dome. Occasionally, tree trunks are used to hold them up, making them stronger. Called McGillis, each hut is a sort of plant igloo. It may well be the simplest dwelling made by man since the beginning of time. The shape of the settlement depends on the terrain. It might be circular, elongated, or rectangular. The doors of the huts and shelters are always oriented toward the center of the encampment, where the communal hearth is located. The leaves of the mango act as roof tiles to waterproof the dwelling. Using their teeth, the Pygmies detach the leaf's central stem, which will serve as an anchor in the framework of branches. They start at the bottom and work up so that the water will run down and not penetrate the roof. The covering won't last more than a month. When the leaves dry, they must be replaced to ensure that they remain waterproof. The Pygmies sleep around a central fire, which, in addition to keeping them warm, keeps the mosquitoes at bay. A variety of Pygmy groups can be found in Cameroon, Gabon, the Central African Republic, Uganda, Rwanda, and the two republics of the Congo. The silence of these forests was broken by the madness of a royal psychopath in one of the most horrific genocides in modern history. In the late 1800s, the bloody reign of King Leopold II of Belgium had a merciless grip on the entire population of the Congo. It is thought that more than 10 million people died over a period of 23 years due to a systematic and indiscriminate exploitation of natural resources, including rubber and ivory, for which indigenous labor was used exclusively under conditions of extreme slavery. Mass slaughter was not uncommon, nor was the burning of villages or punishment by example in the form of torture or mutilation of hands and legs. The genocide under Leopold I was quite possibly the worst in history. The Pygmies, who are by nature docile and social, were forced to defend themselves. They formed large groups to combat the slave trafficking brigades of the Belgian king. They were so well adapted to their environment that their capture was quite difficult. In fact, the proportion of Pygmies captured compared to other groups was quite small. Slave hunters had a hard time moving through the tangled thickets of the rainforest. The Pygmies were difficult to find, seemingly able to make themselves invisible, moving quickly over terrain filled with obstacles for the slave traffickers. In this sinister era, the American Samuel Phillips Verner bought 9 Pygmies from a group of slave traders and brought them to the World's Fair in St. Louis. This marked the beginning of the story of Ota Benga, who was sent to the Bronx Zoo when the expo ended and exhibited in the monkey house with an orangutan. In response to the outcry of churchgoers and moralists, Ota Benga was freed, but several years later he took his own life with a revolver. Knowing he would never return to Africa was more than he could bear. Today, other threats loom in the land of the Pygmies. Virgin forests are disappearing due to the overexploitation of their resources. Pygmies have always been respectful of nature. They are hunter-gatherers who would never take down an animal they don't intend to eat. This is the law of the jungle. If you respect life, the great spirit of the forest will protect you. They make their own hunting weapons, hatchets, spears, knives, and bows. Their spearheads are made with metal from used machetes, which they trade for with their Bantu neighbors. When metal is unavailable, they use the sharpened points of antelope antlers, especially that.
These huts provide protection from rain and insects. Villages are small, consisting of a few extended families. Despite their nomadic lifestyle, they have a deep sense of place. The forest is their home and spiritual sanctuary. The Pygmy people experience high rates of poverty, malnutrition, and disease. Limited access to healthcare, education, and economic opportunities perpetuates a cycle of poverty and vulnerability. Infant mortality rates are high, and life expectancy is significantly lower than that of neighboring populations. These disparities are a stark reminder of the systemic inequalities they face. Alcoholism and substance abuse are growing problems in some Pygmy communities. These issues are often linked to poverty, despair, and the breakdown of traditional social structures. The lack of economic opportunities and the pressures of assimilation into mainstream society contribute to these social ills. Internal conflicts and disputes over resources can also arise within Pygmy communities, particularly as their traditional way of life is disrupted by external pressures. Land disputes, competition for scarce resources, and disagreements over leadership can lead to tension and conflict. The Pygmy people need our support. Governments, NGOs, and individuals must work together to address the challenges they face. This includes protecting their land rights, ensuring their access to healthcare, education, and economic opportunities, and promoting their cultural heritage. It also means challenging discrimination and prejudice, promoting understanding and respect for their way of life. Sustainable development initiatives that benefit Pygmy communities are essential. This includes supporting sustainable forestry practices, promoting ecotourism that respects their culture and environment, and creating economic opportunities that allow them to thrive while preserving their traditions. Empowering Pygmy communities to take control of their own destinies is paramount. This means supporting their leadership, respecting their traditional knowledge and decision-making processes, and ensuring that they have a voice in shaping their own future. The Pygmy people are a testament to the resilience and adaptability of the human spirit. For millennia, they have lived in harmony with nature, their lives intertwined with the rhythm of the rainforest. Their culture, their knowledge, and their way of life are an invaluable part of human heritage. As the world changes around them, the Pygmies face unprecedented challenges. Deforestation, exploitation, discrimination, and poverty threaten their very existence. It is our responsibility to listen to their voices, to learn from their wisdom, and to support their right to thrive. By honoring the legacy of the Pygmy people, we can help ensure that their culture, their knowledge, and their way of life continue to enrich our world for generations to come. Their story is a reminder of our interconnectedness with nature, the importance of cultural diversity, and the need to protect the most vulnerable among us.